So you've probably heard about this. OpenAI is rolling out a new adult mode for ChatGPT. And on the surface, it sounds like it's all about user freedom. But our source for this explainer says, hold on, this opens up a much, much bigger conversation. One about loneliness, corporate greed, and what human connection even means anymore. So, what's really going on with this update? Let's dig in.
You hear this quote from OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, treating adults like adults. It sounds simple enough, right? The argument is pretty straightforward. Hey, we shouldn't be nannying people. Restrictive policies are for kids, and adults should be free to choose for themselves. But hold on, because this is where it gets tricky. It forces us to ask a really crucial question. What if they're not just selling you access to content? What if the real product here is companionship? And if that's the case, what's the actual price we're paying? Okay, first things first, what is this new adult mode? Well, in a nutshell, once you prove you're old enough, you get access to things like erotic content. But, and this is the really big one, you also get AI companionship. For a massive mainstream platform like ChatGPT, this is a pretty huge shift. And you don't have to be a business whiz to see why they're doing it. The logic is crystal clear. If a huge player like OpenAI doesn't offer this stuff, users are just going to jump ship to smaller niche platforms that do. It's a classic move to capture a market that is just absolutely exploding right now. So, yeah, it makes business sense. But this is where our source says we really need to look closer. The argument is that this isn't truly about freedom or even content. It's about tapping into a hugely powerful and incredibly profitable market, the loneliness economy. And just look at the scale of this. Before we even get to adults, think about this for a second. A staggering 67% of kids, we're talking 9 to 17-year-olds, are already using AI chatbots. This is not some fringe activity, it's completely mainstream. And when you dig into that group, the numbers get even more, well, concerning. 12%. 12% of the most vulnerable of these kids say they have no one else to talk to. Think about that. That's the deep, human vacuum that these platforms are beginning to fill.
And if you want to know where the money is, well, this chart says it all. The market for these adult AI platforms just detonated. It went from a tiny sliver of the market, about 1.5%, to nearly 15% in a single year. That kind of growth is insane. The profit potential is just immense. And what's fueling this gold rush? You guessed it, that same deep-seated loneliness.
Okay, so the business model is clear. Sell a solution to loneliness. But what about the product itself? What does it actually do to us? The argument from our source is that these AI companions aren't just a harmless service. They're actively training our brains for a world that isn't real.
And the key idea here is a concept called non-reciprocity. Sounds a little academic, but it's actually really simple. It just means a one-way relationship. The AI is all about you. It doesn't have bad days, it doesn't have its own needs, and it never challenges you. It exists only to serve you.
And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have real relationships. You know, the messy stuff. Compromise, disappointment, having to actually work through things. That's the hard work of connection. On the other side, AI companionship. It's engineered to be the complete opposite. Totally frictionless, always agreeable. Basically just a perfect mirror reflecting your own desires right back at you.
And all of this leads to a central, really troubling question. If you spend hundreds, maybe thousands of hours in this perfect, frictionless world, what happens to your ability to deal with messy, complicated, real human beings? Now, this whole adult choice argument might be starting to sound familiar. Our source contends that what we're seeing from AI companies, well, it's not new. It's actually a page torn straight out of a very old corporate playbook.
Just think about it for a second. An industry sells a product that's potentially habit-forming and defends it by talking about individual liberty and personal choice. Where have we heard that before?
Well, the list is pretty damning. You saw it in the 1960s with big tobacco. Fast forward to the 80s, it's the alcohol industry. The 2000s, it was big pharma defending opioids. And here we are today, with AI companies using the exact same logic. Just let adults decide for themselves.
And according to the author, this is the whole point. The framing is fundamentally dishonest. It pretends these are just neutral tools, like a hammer or a spreadsheet, but they're not. They are incredibly sophisticated systems designed by behavioral scientists to maximize your engagement and ultimately your dependency.
So this all builds to a powerful, pretty provocative analogy. Is this kind of AI companionship the new smoking?
The author puts it bluntly here. No, the harm isn't physical lung cancer. It's psychological and social. It's increased isolation, a weakened ability to form real relationships, and the growth of narcissistic habits. The toxicity, they argue, is just as real.
So what's the solution? Not an outright ban. The idea is to put up some guardrails, pretty similar to what society eventually did with tobacco. 1. We need transparency in how these systems work. 2. We need clear, mandatory warnings about their addictive design. 3. There have to be real restrictions on marketing. And finally, 4. Companies need to be held accountable when they cause harm.
And this all brings us to the final takeaway. It's about recognizing that we, as a society, have both the power and the responsibility to draw a line in the sand.
It's so critical to remember this isn't some unstoppable wave of technology that's just happening to us. No, this is a series of very deliberate business decisions made by companies for economic reasons. And because they're choices, they can be challenged. They can be guided by what we value as a society. And so we'll end with a question our author poses not just to society, but to each of us as individuals. If you find this kind of frictionless, perfect companionship appealing, it's worth asking yourself, what am I actually looking for? What is the real human need I'm trying to meet? Is it connection, intimacy, and can a tool that's designed to simulate it ever truly provide it, or will it just deepen the need in the long run?